That's awesome. When I was a kid, all of my favorite actors were in those movies. 1 inches, every single one of them. Emilio and you, Kiefer, Charlotte, like everybody like that. I like to be like I said, we were a video store fan. And just y'all were my friends. You know, that movie. I wasn't even into westerns. My dad used to watch westerns, and I was like, I don't know, but that felt like my western, my generation,
100%. Hey, absolutely. And what I love now is like, you know, at cons like this, what I do is I get, you know, dads your age or whatever, bringing their teenage sons, you know, to the table and going, you know, introducing to the film, and they still hold up. I mean, they're still really good films.
Yeah.
You know, I'm quite proud of them. And it's so excited to be coming back.
I was doing a podcast for like 10 years, and my buddy Kevin, we were talking about our favorite westerns, and he starts talking about young guns. He starts talking about young guns too. He starts. He goes, he starts crying on the podcast. It was great. It was a powerful moment.
Excellent. But there wasn't anybody in the back of the script, was there?
No.
So when I'm in my early 20s, I'm working at a movie theater, and there's a movie that comes out. I'm a big horror movie fan, and the movie comes out called Bats. That I
said First Power. That was a little bit before you.
some things, okay, but Bats was a fun, crazy, intentionally silly, fun throwbacks, right?
Yeah, you know, it was. I have to say the director, Louis, French last name is escaping. He really elevated the film. He and the director of photography, George Greenglass name, did an amazing job of making it look, you know, really just sumptuous and ratcheting up the action. I always thought, gosh, it was a bit scary, but it's like, no, because as a teenager, come up and loved the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was definitely designed to be more of a less gory and more of a throwback to the sort of 50s, you know, creature features, you know? And my favorite story, first of all, we shot it in Utah, back when there was only 3-2 beer. Yeah. He drank a case of that, I mean, it was tea. That was rough, man. But we filmed in this place called Magdalen, Utah. It's set in Texas. We shot it in Utah. I mean, one of the things we said is, hey, I'm gonna play a Texas sheriff. I'm from Texas. So we're shooting in Utah. Okay.
3-2 beer. Okay, I wear a cowboy hat. Okay, great.
So,
I'm always the Indian man. I can be a cowboy for once.
They had the Miss Magda Day parade, right? And they had the young lady who was Miss Magda. We took pictures when she had her sash, and they had a whole parade down Main Street. And we were shooting, and they did this during the day because we were doing a night shoot. And the town, you know, gets just inundated by bats, and people are running through plate glass windows and getting eaten and whatnot. And Lewis comes up to me and he goes, all right, so if we give you this block, and there's like 13 rounds in it, and don't worry, wherever you shoot, I'll put it back. You won't miss, because they're all CGI. And he goes, you know, like one gets from your hair, and you gotta like fall on the floor, and you got to go over to the, you know, this pickup truck, but you keep shooting. It's like, okay, fine. And I'm in the middle of Main Street by myself, and there's like 500 people left over from the magnet, you know, this magnet. You know, and so roll action. Another car, you know, one empty the clip, you know, and Lewis was, hey, cut! Standing ovation, like 500 people. And I was standing there, and I think I was in my early 40s at this time. And I felt like if you ever saw Ed Wood, you know, where plays Bela Lugosi, right? And he has to wrestle the big rubber octopus. I sat there and I was standing there accepting the applause, which was really lovely of them, but I thought, I'm a grown-ass man. This is what I do feel bad.
What a great life. And they paid for it. You've done some directing.
Yeah.
What how do you like directing compared to acting? And do you want to do more of it?
Let me see, I missed this, my God, I saw my cut, but, the cleaning lady just aired this last Tuesday, I think you could screen it. And it's a really, really good episode, the studio is really happy with me, thank God. But yeah, I've directed a number of those episodes, but I've also directed Fear the Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Kung Fu, a number of things in the last few years. I didn't pursue TV directing until I was doing Longmire. And it's like, hey guys, toss me, let me do this. And then let me do one in the last season. And my director of photography, Todd Dos Reese, on the third day of shooting, he goes, you need to do this. I'm like, yeah, I do. Because like in the early 90s and whatnot, I mean, I directed Dangerous Touch, which I co-wrote. I wrote Ambition, but you saw it last night. You saw a lot of me, darling. Yeah. Bugs aren't as high as they used to be. Say that right now. Yeah. But gravity, it works. But and a couple of Sioux City, which is a favorite of mine as well. I wrote Ambition, but did direct it. And then I also directed The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, a few things like that in the late 90s. And I really, really love it now. But it's totally different than acting, you know. When you're acting, you're focused on your role and your interpretation of that. How do I fit in the story? How the director has to cover it all. And I love that. I love working with TV on how do we shoot this? What are our lenses? What feel do we want to have from this? The production designer, a lot of times when we get to design sets, and can I add this or can I do that? I mean, it's sort of amazing that I can literally walk in and go, you know what, can I get a mural about 20 feet long here? I come back 2 days later and it's there. Yeah. I mean, it's just the power. Yeah. But it's just clicking on all the creative cylinders. And as an actor, but a storyteller, director, author, somebody who tells stories. However, I do it. It's learning the techniques and the tools of the trade for whatever position you're in at the time. And I'm always there. And one of the other things I love is helping my actors, getting the best out of them, making them look good. But at the same time, being a director, it's like you show up. I didn't read the scripts. I can tell you didn't read the script. You're asking me questions because you didn't read the scripts. Guys, it's called homework for a reason. You do it at home. So when you get here, you know your lines, and then I can actually direct you, as opposed to waiting for you just to parrot lines, as not have anything behind them. I mean, that's the thing too, is putting out those fires on the spot where this isn't working the way we thought it was going to work, or that set is not as good, or whatever, or there are literally certain places where you shoot where it's like you can't look over there. You can't look over there because there's big neon signs, and we're not going to pay for all those signage, and we're also not going to CGI all of them out. Yeah. So you have to kind of get creative. There's a part of me that really loves that problem solving.
Yeah, people are big fans of your television work. I had an opportunity to interview C. Thomas Howell a few months ago, and I was talking about his television work. He goes, when I was doing the films in the 80s, no one wanted to do television because they were like lines, like you're a movie actor or you're a TV. Yeah, he's like, it's different now. And like TV now, he said, I'd rather do TV now than any random Marvel movie or something like that. So I love your television work. But in the 80s, you were in one of my favorite shows, Miami Vice. And I loved Miami Vice. But you're in another one of my favorite shows, reality shows, Iron Chef. You've been on Iron Chef?
I've judged Iron Chef twice. I won Rachel versus Guy. I should have won Shot, but I forgot ingredients. Manit Chauhan at the end of it. I think they didn't use this clip of her, where she's, I've never been more angry at the contestant before. Because the cook is great, but I did get freaking chocolate bars.
It's a lot of pressure on those shows, I bet.
Dude, it's for real. People go, oh, it's something. No, man, it's 30 minutes. Yeah, and you don't see what you're cooking until you open that basket. They literally shoot all of the upcoming things, when Ted Allen goes, okay, reach for the baskets, don't open the baskets. Okay, and okay, we're going to change camera angles. And then they finally get to the angle where it's like, and you're going to open the basket. And you literally, And it takes, you're looking at it in the time that it takes Ted to say, and you have beef tongue and Chinese candy, and he's doing all this, you're literally going, what the hell am I gonna do? And then Ted goes, and the clock starts now. And it is, 30 minutes is up, it's done. No movie magic. Same thing with Iron Chef. Yeah, which is amazing, what those guys do, putting out 5 different dishes in an hour, based on the season ingredient. It's stunning. Yeah, but that's why they're Iron Chefs.
All right, you want to open up to some audience questions?
Absolutely not these two. But yes, anybody else, is free to ask questions.
Yeah, who's got a question?
There's mine.
I got a pretty loud voice. I can yell.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And welcome to Huntsville as well, but I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, at the time you were filming Young Guns 2.
Yeah.
Did you ever eat at the stock market there?
More than likely. Honestly, we were all over the place, during the, from Young Guns 1 and 2, which were both in, that area, as well as, Guns 3 were going back. And I shot Longmire for 6 seasons, in Santa Fe. What's funny is that there were a number of, crew people, in Longmire who worked on Young Guns. And, I can also say that most of the bartenders were the same. Yeah, they see me coming in, okay, Shiner Bach,
And also, when you were in Tucson, did you eat at the Silver Paddle, I think it was called, where they cut your thighs off, the steak restaurant? Because you're well known in those Tucson.
What's funny is I know I've been there because the ceiling is covered with all the ties.
Okay?
Yeah, I did not wear a tie. I got very, very long hair. I didn't get a chunk of that.
Thank you.
We're cat people, so I have to ask cats.
They're amazing. They're fantastic. There's been a little bit of upheaval in the Phillips home lately because we have 2 brand new Wawas. Yeah. Pete Petra, anybody who follows me on X has seen some Pete Petra, photos. So there were rescues from, Hurricane Helene in, North Carolina. Yeah, we got the Wawas. But we also thought because kids was 14 now and survived cancer 3 times, that he could use a little bit of a jolt. And he does. He like chases them around. I mean, it's like, it's funny. He's the lover. He's ugly as sin, but he's, as Yvonne says, he's got ribs. He's got the charisma. He's got the ribs. And he's like, Pepe, get up on here. But yeah, but the cats, the first couple of days, are but they're all copacetic. I don't think they love them, but they don't, they're getting used. Yeah.
Awesome. You had a question.
You've done a lot of work on law enforcement,
Yes.
being detectives, lieutenants, everything like that. I spent 14 years in law enforcement.
Thanks for your words.
Thank you. But when you do those jobs, you do them very well. They're very realistic, very much like a law enforcement officer would do. It's not like caricatures of what a law enforcement officer would really be. So what inspiration have you been given or have you been drawn on to do those roles? And why do you keep going back?
I certainly try to, first of all, every role that I do, I played a lot of Native Americans, I'm very proud to do that. But you have to be very specific. What is it that you're, what are you bringing to it? So you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Not to mention the fact that they're not interchangeable. Navajo is not like Lakota, is not like Cheyenne. And most of the time, especially like with that, I go to the source. Same thing when I'm playing, a cop or whatever, and I played lieutenants, I played cops, I played, reservation cops, snipers like on numbers. And there were a lot of times in the late 80s, early 90s where I did ride arounds. And I would go to the range. And when I was preparing for the first Power, actually, I rode around with Detective Bob Rowe, who was part of the task force to catch the Hillside Stranglers. We were driving around in LA and it's like 2:00 in the morning and he's got the police scanner on. He's in the passenger side. He's got another cat that is active LA detective. And he's listening to the crime scenes. He finally turns around and he goes, "Whoa, I'm sorry, nobody's getting killed in LA tonight. I wanted to take you to a crime scene." So it's all good. Nobody has to die. And applying, when we did Courage Under Fire, Captain Rory Aylward, was our technical advisor. Prodigal Son, we had a New York City cop technical advisor. And whenever there was process, whenever there was, procedure to be done, it's one of my things, like, we're gonna get, we're getting Jim, right? Getting Jim in today, okay, good. I mean, literally down to, how do you hold the gun? How do you breach a door? What do all of this stuff, so because we've all watched the shows, it's like, that person has never shot a gun in their whole life. They don't even know how to hold it. They're gonna shoot themselves in their foot, and so it matters to me that I get it right. So, I do a refresher every once in a while, or if I'm doing something that's new and different, like the sniper, I go to the source and talk for the real deal, and try to get it right.
Thank you.
Love long arms, follow up there, it's all your work.
It is a beautiful day at the Red Bull Inc. Continuous floor already.
Just gonna ask. All your work that you've done, you have a favorite role, you have a least favorite role?
No, I have been so fortunate. People always ask me, what's your favorite? But I mean, look at the first three films I did in Hollywood, Bamba, Standing, Deliver, and Young Guns. They're all so different. You can't compare those characters to each other. And coming from the theater and, doing leads or supporting or classics or contemporary, comedy, to heavy drama, to farce, it's how I learn. And I wanted my film career and television career to be the same, to constantly challenge me. And what I would love is that I am still getting roles that I find a new way to approach them. I find something new and different in them, because otherwise I just doing the same thing, or, I'd get on a police procedural and be there for 20 years. You know what I mean? But I do like doing different things. But I mean, there are a number of standouts. Standing there. Roles like that to me are aspirational. They remind me of the kind of human being I'd like to be. They have nobility, they have integrity, they have honor. In Henry's case, you could not have a more loyal friend. Somebody who literally put his life on the line for you. Chavez was that way. He was the spiritual guide, of that. And I mean, even when I'm playing, bizarre characters, that you go, yet another comp, Prodigal Son. The thing that really was my key into that was that he was Malcolm's father figure. He was there to take care of him, and it wasn't just, hey, you who's Kevin, be careful out there. There was a real bond between the two of them. And so, I always have to find something to hang my hat on. And the roles that stay with me, and some of them sadly were underseen. A few people have asked about a picture at the table. That's from the 33 about the Chilean miners, another true story. And I play Don Lucho, who's the boss, who had so much guilt for breaking everybody down when the mine collapsed, and I got to hang out with him. And those roles, they're the ones that stay with me because they teach me something and they touch my heart. And they also tend to be the roles that families watch together, which would always be something to me. That's one of the nice things about being at the table. Somebody will come up and go, hey, I watched this with, my grandma, or my dad introduced me to this, that's always touching.
You back there at the mic.
So, I have a question regarding your character, Young Gun Chavez. It is probably one of the most unique and awesome characters in that series, and just it fits with that group of storylines. When you were given that role, how did that one come together? Was it fully vetted out? Did you get some information and you had to fill the rest? And what inspired you to put that character together?
Two stories. So I get the script. And I had just met Kiefer. Kiefer was coming out of a movie and I was going into one at the Beverly Center. I said, oh, hey, love you, we should work together, blah, blah, blah. In 2 weeks, but I go, there it is. I get the script and I read it from Texas, grew up on Western, being my dad. And I was, and I'm reading it and, but they didn't provide audition sites. So I didn't know what I was auditioning. Kiefer was already attached. Believe it or not, Amelia was not the first person to get the script to play Billy the Kid. At the time, Sean Penn was attached. But he couldn't do it because he was in jail for hitting a photographer. So Emilio got it, and Emilio brought in Charlotte. I spent 5 hours on a transcontinental airplane trying to talk with the guy that they gave the offer to first to play Dick Woodward, and that was Patrick Swayze. And Patrick was a buddy, but he says, I just can't do it on social film, well, I just can't, you know. So, yeah, man, got the history there. So I go into the meeting, John Fusco, the writer. By the way, and the script was ridiculous. Okay. So I go in, and I don't even change much at all, if anything. I go in, meet with Chris King, the director, Fusco, the writer, Paul Schiff, producer, and his name went right out of my head. Ended up being the president of Fox, of course, like walked up. Joe Roth. Yeah. And so we have a wonderful meeting for about 20 minutes, and then there's a pause, and I go, I didn't get the sides. I didn't know what we're, what we're going to do. But I prepared the speech, and I one other scene that I thought you guys might want to see. And Chris King starts to grin at me, and he looks at Fusco, and he looks at, the producers. And I'm wondering what the hell are they laughing at? They're all smiling at this point. And Chris King's pretty. Road, but a lot of the other actors did not. And shooting and the knife throwing. But I also had a month at home where we set up the prop. I simply the throwing knives. I practiced with it for like a month before I got actually very, very good at it. I think the one thing that definitively that I did that was not in the script was the face painting from Peyotes. That's because in my studies, once again, knowing I was going to enter the spirit world, I had to go in disguised as a spirit. And that's what I designed that makeup and I asked Chris if I could do it. And yeah, so that was a big surprise to everybody. But it turned out to be really iconic,
Yeah, it was great. It would have been great to see a backstory about that character. Just the way you come in, you sold it. It was really fun.
My daughter and I, who she does not watch TV a lot, loved Prodigal Son and one as a lot. It was so good. Why did it only last?
The Fox
That's what
Network.
I'm talking about.
I don't know. It's interesting. They make corporate decisions, and I can somewhat glean what their thinking was at a certain point in time. We were an expensive show. I mean, we had name actors in the top 5 or 6, characters. Michael Sheen, and then COVID hit, and yet they still wanted a show, which was $20 million above the actual budget of the show. And they're like, oh my God, you spent $20 million. Yeah, you wanted a show. It's not our fault. These were the COVID protocols, but then I think they had a corporate mandate to like downsize. And unfortunately, a lot of studios, and somebody asked me earlier today, they're making fewer movies. They're making, they're pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into the big Marvel tentpole and things like that. But the medium-sized things, they're not doing as much anymore, or they're going very small. And if you'll, like I said, I directed The Cleaning Lady like 3 times now. That's always a little bittersweet. I love that show. I love the fact that, it's a largely Filipino cast, that there's a lot of diversity there. My good friend Kate Del Castillo, who did the 33 with me, played the Harris's wife. I got to direct her. But they're probably a third of the budget of what we were, and they're the ones that replaced us. And I think that's what Fox was saying. It's like, well, we're just going to downsize, you know. But meanwhile, the reviews were fantastic. The role, I love the role.
Different.
Exactly, and you know what happens a lot of times. If it's different, then it's like, let's go something else.
So it's great to sit in the same room with you and like your real personality and things. I'm just wondering, it sounds like you're really busy. How do you find the time to do different things?
First of all, it's interesting because of, like, for instance, the pandemic or whatever, then the actors' strikes and whatnot. You know, there was a time there where this was, you know, a wonderful opportunity. I mean, you see the people that have done it, you know, and that when we had some time on our hands and we started doing this stuff, so we realized this is pretty cool. Getting to be fans. I've said this 2,000 times. I compare this to stage show. You know, like when I was on Broadway doing The King and I would meet people afterwards, you know, and we have a shared experience. And when we sit there, when we chat at the table, I get to touch you or your family or part of your
Buddy, a childhood growing up, when you were very young, and Blue Diamond was less Jewish.
But you know, and so it becomes this great deal that we have, that, you know, I'm going to be someplace at a place of time. You're going to have your time with me. I'm going to be there with open arms to greet you, and it's become this dynamic, this phenomenon, you know, because they're all across the country now. You know, and it used to be just like San Diego Comic-Con, but, you know, now every major city has their own cons and people come, and it's this is really fantastic experience that's grown out of the movie industry and the television industry.
A fun question. Did Malcolm kill Martin?
It was a cliffhanger. Now, here's the thing. It was a cliffhanger because we didn't know Michael was coming back.
Oh,
Michael would never sign more than a year's long contract. We all would sign 2, 3 year, you know, deals, whatever. And so literally it was the writer's defense if he decided he didn't want to come back.
so you could just.
Yeah, so it would be like, okay, are you gonna come back? He lives. You're not coming back? He leaves. You know. Yeah.
Okay.
And either way, it's a win-win for Malcolm because it's like, you know, he's saved, and then it's like, oh, I still got to deal with this guy, or he dies. His guilt is so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Gil's there. The only thing that I can say is that pretty sure that me and Jess were getting married in season 3.
Such a rich guy.
I never get to deal romantically. They always stick out the desert with a horse. You know what I mean?
That's gonna be in my head now. Thanks, but what's your favorite? I love Stand and Deliver, but what's your favorite memory from that?
From Stand and Deliver? Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, first of all, we had a week rehearsal, which was unheard of, but Eddie wanted to do it like a play. Get this, Stand and Deliver was not originally supposed to be a theatrical film. It was made from PBS in Los Angeles for less than $1 million. Yeah. But then we went to a lot of film festivals, and at the Mill Valley Film Festival, Warner Brothers picked us up. You know, and then we go on to be Oscar nominated. I was nominated for a Golden Globe with Eddie. We both won the Independent Spirit Award. It was really sort of amazing. And the way that I got into that film, for La Bamba, I was first of all, I was cast in LA Low. So it's like you can either have per diem or you can have a place to stay. So I ended up sleeping on a friend's couch, and I took the per diem because I figured, hey, I gotta eat, right? So I made about $6,000 on that movie, half of which I gave to my mom. Yeah. And so by December of that year, 86, and we filmed in June, July of 86, the movie was not coming out until August of 87. And so I'm this unknown kid from Texas with this movie as I said, about an obscure rock and roller that's a negative pickup. Nobody's banging down my door to give me leading roles. I can't get arrested. So by December, I'm almost out of money. And I'm still auditioning, and I land Miami Vice. The episode is Red Tape. Viggo Mortensen is my partner, you know, and that Benny is the girlfriend of the bad guy, all in the same episode. All right. So I have one scene with Eddie Olmos. Eddie had done Zoot Suit with the Valdez brothers, Luis and Andy Valdez, who did La Bamba. So he knew that I was Bridget. And we have one scene together. And at the end of that one, and by the way, I got paid as much on one episode of Miami Vice as I did the whole movie of La Bamba. You know, which I got spread for 6 months now. But Eddie, you know, we finished the scene together. He goes, "What are you doing next month?" I was like, "You want to have lunch?" He goes, "When you get back to LA, here, call this number. Talk to this guy. I'm doing the movie. You need to be in it." Sure enough, I call, it's Ramon Menendez, the director. I meet with him and Tom Muska, who wrote the screenplay and produced it. And that's how I ended up in Stand and Deliver. And interestingly enough, I just did a movie with Tom Muska that premiered at the Miami Film Festival like 3 weeks ago called Aguadilla. We shot it in Puerto Rico. Tom now teaches cinema at the University of Miami. He wrote this amazing film noir script. I'm the lead in it. And he co-directed it with his son, Alex. So, be looking for that one. That'll probably do some festivals and be out maybe next year.
We have time for one more question.
So if we're, you know, you mentioned the 80s and 90s were great, right? And that's when Young Guns was really hot. And, you know, say you were to come back in Young Guns, what's it like, you know, coming back 30 years later, revisiting that cast, that story, and what would you do to prepare for that? Like you mentioned, doing preparing. So what would it be like revisiting all that?
Well, I've already started hitting the gym, first of all. Yeah. Yeah. Not such a young gun anymore. Yeah.
So hot.
Well, Amelia's talked a little bit about this, so I don't feel like I'm talking out of school here. He ages himself to where we are now, which amazingly, and that's the beauty of, you know, a lot of people go, oh my God, Young Guns 1 and 2, those are based on real history. It's like, yeah, you know, Fusco did amazing research. You know, the Lincoln County Wars, John Tunstall, all of that stuff, Murphy Gang, all that stuff was for real, you know. What's interesting is that the real Jose Chavez lived to be 70 years old and I think became an almond farmer in Colorado. You know, so if we're sticking with that, you know, Chavez lived. So he's bringing back Christian and myself because we died off camera. Never saw the bodies, you know. He addresses that at some point. But the timeline, and just like in Young Guns 2, Brushy Bill Roberts claims to be, you know, Billy the Kid wants to get the pardon that's promised him from the governor of New Mexico. That plays a part in it. But it brings us to the Mexican Revolution. And Pancho Villa is a character in the beginning of the film. You know, they're talking about some interesting names there. There's some other really, really cool roles that he's looking for, including a whole group of young guys, you know, and girls, that, you know, are become the torch gets passed to them, you know, and we're the old Fark Winter guys. But what I do love, and I will say this without giving too much away from the character, one of the things that I've always loved about him was that he was the spiritual guide of the regulators. And that theme, that through line of that character really, really comes to life and fruition in number 3, where he's a warrior poet, basically. And it's really beautiful, what they've done to him. There's going to be some interesting changes, and we'll see how people react to it. But the character makes so much sense to me. And Emilio, he really imbued him with not only everything that made it great in the past, but some things that make who he is relevant to what's on people's minds today. And it's, I'm very excited about it.
All right, one more from the gentleman against the wall. He's been very patient.
How you doing, sir?
I'm good. You're not here to deport me, are you?
No. I ask you a question. You ever talk?
Was I? Oh, I told you about doing bats. Oh, I did bats in Utah. Is there an outstanding ticket?
No, sir.
I believe it. Did you sponsor me in one of the bars? Because that's what you had to do.
With the guy from Five Heartbeats.
Yes,
That was me.
that's excellent. All right, listen. All right, here's another crazy story. 3-2 beer. We know this, right? We are literally, because we're shooting movie golf bats, we're shooting splits in half the night. I can't make last call to save my life because of freaking, Utah. Last call at 11:30. And if you go to a bar, you cannot, you have to be a member, but there's usually, Bill, the sits at the end of, hey, Bill, will you sponsor this guy? So we got to buy Bill a drink. You get into the bar, and you can't do a shot and a beer at the same time. They have to bring you the shot, walk back to the bar. It's like, put it over here. We bring you the beer, and you're good, right? So I hung out with Leon a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, Leon.
We got that night for the bus, because I was a truck driver then.
Uh-huh.
And,
All right.
and we all hung out. I was DJing with my friends up there.
Okay, brother. Yeah, no, I'm sure we have it. By the way, when you have a one-named actor like Leon, try asking for his room at a hotel. Yeah, I'm calling for Leon. Leon, who's started? I don't think he has a last name. I think he's just Leon, And so one night, me and Leon crashed a frat party. That's how desperate we were. And they were so happy to have us there. I can't smoke pot. It puts me to sleep. I can't, but we're at a frat party and there's 3-2 people. And so they passed it to me. Don't get it. 5 minutes later, went, and then she went, and then okay. Is that happening, you guys? Because I don't get a taxi. Okay. Yeah, never again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Good
much.
to see you again, bro. We survived.
Thank you.
Complete nerve authority.